You're listening to a Pop House Network podcast for developers by developers.
Welcome to OffHeap, DevNexus 2024. You know, against all odds, we actually got listed on the room that we are actually performing. For those who have, follow our saga, what usually happens is and not follow our own or the organizers, just that they're very busy. Sometimes having a live podcast recording happening at a conference is hard, and we usually get shuffled at the last minute because some like technical constraint that they and this is my fault. Like the organizers didn't know. It's like, oh yeah, we need like 7 mics to record everybody and a big screen to display things. So this time they kind of wisen up and say like, okay, no, we're gonna give you a room where everything can happen. So they give us a room. This is a room that we are actually listed for the recording. So I am like happy as a clam that this is the most people we actually have, because they actually they can't find a room. So yeah, welcome to DevNexus. If this is the first time you've been with, you hear about this podcast, or the first time you have heard us, this is essentially a Java-centric kind of like tech news. Doesn't necessarily need to be Java, but maybe Java adjacent. And this is the fun episode, because when we get to do it at a conference, we kind of like take it a little bit step back. We make it a little bit lighter. We will have kind of like a trivia game at the end, and people are welcome to participate around. We have like $1 million cash bag for the winner, but I forgot that.
It's right here. No, it's right here.
So there. Oh, Keto decided to actually spot the $1 million.
Yes,
so you talk to him
right here.
if you win it, right? So yeah, it's gonna be fun. We're gonna have exciting news, because we're talking a lot about kind of like a little bit of the landscape of how technology is changing for us, right? AI has already making waves, but one of the things that we're looking at is how quantum is also going to, put a little bit of shift the gears a little bit on what we're doing, right? And and that's why we got some new guests to talk to us about it. But before we start, that this is the beginning of our podcast. I'm going to make introductions. My name is Freddy Guime. I am one of the co-hosts of the OffHeap podcast. I am a distinguished engineer at Expedia Group, speaker, author, Java champion, co-organizer of the Seattle Java Users Group. And I'm here with some of my usual suspects.
Hi everybody, Bob Paul, and by the time this is released, formally independent consultant. Whoa. I'll be starting a new job at Databolo by the time this is out, so you'll continue to see me there. Thank you. I'm employed for the first time in 12 years. Also Java champion, Apache Software Foundation member, speaker, and CJUG board chair.
All right.
Yeah, so I'm not a usual suspect.
Well, you are. You're part of the Pop House Network. It makes it sound bigger than it is.
Yeah. There's 400 podcasts, yes. All right. So my name is Keto Man. I am the co-host of the Stacked podcast, or Stacked D podcast, depending on how you want to pronounce it. We're also on the Pop House Network. And we do sort of similar thing, but we also talk about front-end stuff and general tech stuff, and back-end and Java and non-Java. And we usually have guests too. So it's a little bit similar, but a little bit different. Yeah. I'm also a Java champion, and I do consulting and training and mentoring around Card2E, Java, all that kind of fun stuff. And I do not run any user groups. So that's me.
No, yeah. Keto, and again, if you go to pophouse.net, you can see all of our podcasts that we record. Keto leads the Stacked, and he goes in places where I am very afraid to go to, right? Like the front end is a scary place, and he just goes there like nobody's business, right? All right, so here we have Andy.
Hello.
Tell us about you. What do you do? Who you are?
All right. Well, I'm Andy Schwadewer, and so I'm actually co-founder and CEO of Quantum Night, which is a new company that's helping developers really secure all the projects you're working on, especially with quantum and AI and all these things coming out. We're really having something that's going to change the game, and I think bring developers back into the main core focus of owning security across their organization, everything they touch. So excited to be here. Thanks, Freddie.
Do you also play an instrument?
I do, and so the other part of this, so I guess I should go. So I've been around for a long time. I've been really close friends with JCP for over a decade. I worked at Hazelcast for a long time and helped launch that, and have participated in mini jugs and things like that over the years globally. And I am also the esteemed drummer currently of the NullPointers, which is the JCP band, which if you're going to the JCP party tonight, you will see us.
We'll be playing. Get drunk.
Makes them sound better.
Yeah, no, we sound amazing.
It does sound a lot better the more you drink, I must say. That's true for most bands, though.
Yeah. And then we also have Sascha.
Yeah, thank you very much. Sascha here, Java journeyman since Java 1.1. Kind of missed the initial launch, but pretty close. And dabbling in several other languages. I just keep coming back, kind of like an old mistress, and on this journey with Andy, trying to help secure the world. But at the end of the day, it's just really cool to be with other technologists and have these kind of discussions.
All right.
Awesome.
And now, with that in, let's just dive together in our agenda. And I guess.
Well, actually, let's pause for a moment and just give our appreciations for DevNexus, especially Glenn, who, when we have had all of those issues in the past, has been the one to smooth them over. So thank you, Glenn.
Big round of applause for Glenn. Buy him a beer when you can.
But yeah, this is what our fifth, sixth, seventh time here. We've been at DevNexus now for a while, so we always enjoy this conference. It's a developer-led, community-led conference. Great vibes for our podcast. So thank you all for coming, and we'll be getting into the agenda now.
I want to add one thing.
Yes,
yeah, go.
Please.
I was telling one of my clients, one of my clients wanted to meet today, and I went to meet them, and they're like, are you sure we're meeting today? There's no Zoom link. I'm like, oh, well, we don't have to meet because I'm at a conference. And he's like, oh, yeah, that's cool. We can meet on Friday. But I was like, you should come to this conference because this is hands down one of the best conferences, like Java conferences ever. So next year, bring your team down. So for anyone who's looking for a Java conference or, you haven't been to one in a while, check this one out. It's definitely one of the best ones.
Yeah. No, we stamp of approval from the Pop House Network.
Yes.
It is. You get same content that you'll get on
what used to be a Java one.
Yeah.
But that's coming back.
One. There's news on that. Actually, why don't we just start there, right?
It's kind of a good segue to our first subject.
Yeah.
So we do have several other conferences coming up. So the Spring I/O in Barcelona, May 30th through May 31st. So if you're a Spring developer, that's the place to be. Community over Code, North America. So what was formerly called ApacheCon is now called a Community over Code. So if you're into Apache software projects, open source, foundation level things, that's going to be in Denver this year. The CFP will be closed by the time this gets released because it's April 15th. So if you're looking to do a talk at Community over Code, you definitely want to get that in soon. And if you're hearing this, it's probably too late, but not too late to attend, obviously.
Honestly, really get into and start publishing.
Great conference to go to. Denver's a great location. So great that there's another conference there the week before it, which is Dev2Next. Which is the conference that Venkat helps run, among other folks, will also be in Colorado. That call for proposals is closed, but you can still go as an attendee September 30th through October 3rd. Another great conference coming up. And then if you like DevNexus, the organizers of DevNexus are also putting on JConf.dev, and that one's moved around from Chicago. This year it's going to be in Dallas, September 24th to the 26th. I'm not sure what the status of the CFP is on that one. It's
It
close.
is?
Okay.
Okay.
But that one is also coming up. But Tendy in Dallas, close play. So another one to check out. And then the segue to the Java 1. So Freddie, I don't know if we have all the details on that yet. Have you heard of the details on that?
So for those who don't, who may not know, there used to be this big, the Oracle official Java conference. It was called Java 1. The Sun, when first Sun started it up, then it kind of had a little bit of a transformation, became Oracle Code 1. Then COVID happened. They kind of like shut it down. Then started up again last year in Las Vegas. But then this year, it actually, like they say, we will make one, but it never really materialized, right? So now that we're hearing signals that there is going to be a Java 1, they're calling it Java 1, for 2025. And this will happen in San Francisco in the actual Oracle campus. Right. That is, early information. That's what we know so far. We don't know if that's going to be the final thing. But the one thing that we do know is apparently they do want to do one. They might not do it in Moscone or Vegas, which is where they have it on the previous years. We'll see what happens. Hopefully it will be a very fun-filled conference. We're always hopeful. But yeah, so they are coming back. We're ready for them to do something fun and cool for the community. So,
all right, let's move on to our news items. So, very first thing announced. We had our the Jug Leaders Summit, where I believe that's where this was announced about the JCP Java Ecosystem Working Group. That's getting started, and again, what I hear, so Heather Vancouver announced this.
Yes.
And it's basically a working group about the different libraries in the ecosystem that are Java-based, that are looking for help adjusting to the new train releases. And they're not really super new anymore. The train releases have been coming out, regularly over the 6-month periods, and then an LTS, every third one or fourth one is an LTS. I forget. But library developers, open source developers that are having issues or have concerns about running with that release cycle, this is the working group that's there to gather that feedback. I know several folks or several projects in the ASF that have some strategies around dealing with the ongoing release train, where it's like, hey, there's a new release out, the pre-release versions. Hey, let's test compile against it and see, if our code still works, if our tests still run. But if things are breaking or if things in the process aren't working, this is the spot.
Yeah. And just have one. You still have Norton?
It's Windows, Freddie.
I saw that pop up, and I
saw it too. I was like, that yellow? I know that yellow. All right.
My business insurance likes it when I have antivirus on my computer, whether it works or not.
Whether you just use your computer.
That is true. Oh my gosh. No. But before we derail this whole thing, So the interesting part is if you are always eager to try the latest Java version, the first thing you do is you take your project, you put in the latest Java version, you start it up, and suddenly something bars, and is most likely not your code. It will be a dependency that suddenly was using reflection and didn't have modules open, or there was some kind of no, we cannot run on 21 because of maybe something was deprecated for removal, or you're using some kind of library that it has byte incompatibility with the new version, right? And this is kind of frustrating. It's not frustrating. It's part of the game, right? We are using, open source. We don't have to write the whole library ourselves, and we own it to the library maintainers that we can use these things, right? So this is a way for if you're a library maintainer, and if you want to kind of get ahead of the curve, some library maintainers already do that. They're very, very good at trying to let's just try it on 21. Let's just try it on 22. But there might be other library maintainers that are, a little bit, I will do it when there's the push, right? And this is trying to get ahead, see if we can essentially recruit them into like, oh, come on, let's make it fun for everyone. If you're there with us when everybody starts in 22, or even if it's just the LTSs, right? Like it makes life so much easier and greater. Like one of the things that I always do, right? Like I tried 21. I'll still remember. Like we had Gradle, and Gradle because it has dependencies on Groovy. Will not the day 21 was announced, it's like, download it, come on, install it, come on, Gradle, clean, deploy. And it's like, nope, this is my code that I don't recognize. I'm not gonna build your thing. And then you get the oh well, you could do it if you use Gradle, you use JDK 17 to run Gradle with a target of 21, and that's when you start doing all this monkey patching for your Gradle file. It's you can, but it's horrible. So it'll be fun if we can all get it, so we all get excited at the same time. So if you happen to be a framework developer, and you have one of these essentially Keystone projects, come on, get on board with us. The Java community process wants to hear from you. It wants to see how can we enable you to be able to deploy everything on the same 6 months cadence. And it might just be a rebuild that you need to do, and that's it. Knock on wood.
Yeah, and Sascha, I know if you've been with it since 1, you've known that the release schedule for Java has obviously been a bit of a crapshoot up into the last couple of years, where finally it's like when they say they're going to deliver, they deliver.
Well, I was smiling about that whole last statement because Gradle kind of trailed for about 2 months. JDK 21 was released, and then you had to wait until, I can't remember, 8.5 or 8.6, but I think it was 8.5.
Yeah.
And it's really cool to be an early adopter, but I just wouldn't do that with production code right away. But I firmly encourage people to be those early adopters, especially for the LTS releases, especially for releases like JDK 21 that have so many really cool features that I think we can all benefit from. So I guess just use your best judgment, but don't be afraid to experiment. I mean, that stuff is really cool, and your company is probably going to lag your enthusiasm, and that's okay. But don't be afraid to try it.
Well, and I was, obviously, every now and then there are certain features which clearly break things, and virtual threads would be one of them, right? There's one level which is using virtual threads or using Quarkus or some framework that supports it. But then there's okay, what about your JDBC driver? What about this? What about that? Right. And are they using thread locals and as a cache, for example, which you can't do. But a lot of those things didn't get fixed for a while, and the JDK, the virtual threads were around for 2 or 3 releases in preview mode.
Yeah.
Right?
They were,
so I think we can do a better job as a community, sort of ferreting those things out earlier, so that when the new feature is actually released as a final release, it actually has support from a broader range of the community, which presumably is what this should help with.
Yes, and that is kind of and a lot of it is just how can we help you get there, right? We have a ton of that to the framework developers and library developers. This is more of hey, we know you're very, very busy. How can we make it easier on you to get being able to do that cadence of releases, just as the Java is doing, the JDK is doing its trunk releases. All right,
let's keep moving. All right, so the next kind of announcement should be something that we've actually been hearing about here at the conference, because Aaron Schnabel, I believe her last name is, from Red Hat, is chairing this foundation, but the Common House Foundation launch was announced here. So I know we're looking to have her on the show later, so keep following. You'll probably hear more about it from us in a later episode. But yeah, as somebody involved in another open source foundation, I'm interested to see what the new slice is and what the angle is for this foundation. They certainly have a number of very mature and well-known Java projects that have come to it. Hibernate. You have Jackson. I'm forgetting a few. JReleaser.
Yeah,
There's a few more. I'm trying to go off
Morphia.
the top of my head. Morphia.
Interesting. Interesting.
Open rewrite. Yep. Yeah. Open rewrite's another one. So, definitely has been attracting a number of mature Java frameworks. So yeah, interested in finding out more.
Yeah, and it's interesting because right now they either projects that are like in a certain size, they usually end up either on the Apache Software Foundation or they usually get into Eclipse,
Linux.
So
not so much Java there, but
yeah, I was gonna say that one is tough, but yeah, that's right, Kubernetes there, right?
Where's the open
the
cloud native?
That's on Google, right?
It was originally.
Jenkins, I think did Jenkins go to Linux Foundation?
Oh my
forget
gosh.
because there's a whole build working group there, and I forget
Yeah,
if they're a part of that.
It's all running together now.
But yeah, so there are a lot of options.
Yes.
So there is a new one coming in. It'll be interesting to see like what is the niche that they cover and the reason why they're which is like to be honest like even between the ASF and Eclipse there is like there are certain things that are done in Eclipse. They have processes for that. Are certain breaks are very suited for that, especially when you need some kind of like TCK like things. And ASF is very good for other projects where you really want like independence, for example, from the corporate entities, right? Like there is a reason why you go to these. So it's not necessarily a bad thing to have a new one, but it's interesting to see what it is that they're trying to solve.
Yeah, and I'm sure we'll dive more into it with Aaron on the show, but it seems like they're trying to be less opinionated than the other foundations is kind of the recurring theme. Like, so, ASF has certain rules, Eclipse has certain rules. They have business and not-for-profit structures that kind of drive some of that, like the ASF being more of a charity is a 501c3, more like a college, versus Eclipse, which is, they're in Europe now, so I have no idea what the equivalent is, but they're like kind of like the business league equivalent, the 501c6. This seems like it's under the 501c6 thing, so probably closer to the business league side. So
yeah, I'm thinking it might be in the middle. Because
I
feel like I do a lot of stuff with Jakarta EE. I'm a project lead for the documentation. So now I have a better idea about how it works.
Yep.
And it's very, very structured. They've got processes and rules. I felt like Apache was kind of the opposite. So I think I'm guessing we'll be in the middle, but I'm very curious to see.
Yep. All right. So more on that. Moving on. All right. Other piece that has probably been in the news, maybe keeping some of you awake at night, is the XZ backdoor.
And if it hasn't, it should.
It should.
Oh yeah.
So I believe level 10 CVE.
Okay. So by show of hands, who does care about the XZ backdoor? All right. For those, so maybe.
Well, first of all, we should probably. So who knows what XZ is? All right, so might help just to start with that. So it's basically a compression library that runs on Linux. So it's basically for, again, just like a tarball. It's another compression algorithm for unzipping sets of files. So very commonly used across the Linux ecosystem. So the idea of having a vulnerability in something so close to the kernel is very concerning. More concerning, which we'll get into later, is the how and what happened. But I don't know if you were going to talk about what it might. What can you do with this?
I think you do have a slide on that.
I do. Well, why don't we move to the next slide? Just kind of talking through the timeline of how it
these
went
security
down.
experts might have.
And we might have some
ideas.
security experts here that may have some opinions on that as well.
I don't know. I just.
Actually.
Well, I think there's an irony here in that 2 months ago there was or maybe a month ago, somewhere in there, the White House made a big push for memory safety. Mm-hmm. And
do not use C++.
don't use C. Don't use C++. Use Java, use Rust, etc.
I remember that.
But I think it's an interesting intersection, and when we go into the details of the actual vulnerability, I think they're truly terrifying. But I think this push right now to rewrite everything at the same time we're now aware of these kind of attacks, I think it is a conjunction where we're ironically trying to make things safer and we're now aware of people infiltrating the very things that we're trying to protect. So I think it's a very interesting time to be a developer on these core libraries.
Yeah, and interesting in the Chinese curse sense, or
Yes, exactly. May live in interesting times.
yes,
Yes, indeed.
Well, you know, and you know, as we become more aware and we become like bastions of security, you know, we'll be employed for a while because like, these things need to be. We depend on people to actually help us out on this, and I think like the interesting part, you know, we have a slide up of like how the actual vulnerability happened. The scary part is that it started like the timeline of this is not like yesterday,
yes,
right? Like
yes.
like who remembers the colors library from AWS when the author was
Node.js library.
yeah, like the author of one of these like small libraries was tired and they just made a commit. It's like, oh, I'm tired. I want to do something else, right? And put in a kind of like a political message in the middle. And everybody was like, oh my gosh, you know, like, you know, that one was like, okay, fine. The author was angry and there was no checks because it's a library that everybody on Node can publish and download and you know, like Java doesn't have that much of exposure. Like if you're doing a main build repository or you're going through Maven Central, there is some checks and balances, but it's not perfect, but it helps. And then you get things like the Log4j, we actually make shirts about that, where it's something that has been like, oh, there's a feature that I should put in, and I should run any code that was done in 1999, and it was dormant for years, and everybody was using it, and it was an accident, right? Like it was just like something happened, and nobody looked at all the possible combinations of things that could happen, and suddenly you can just say a very well-formed log message, and then suddenly you have access to somebody's computer, right? This here is deliberate. There was somebody that decided, I'm going to target this, and I'm going to make commits in an obfuscated way over a period of time to create a backdoor. Like, that is, the level of sophistication has, you know, exponentially risen, and the problem is that, you know, we're looking at it, it's hard to catch.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And they're committed,
It's,
right?
it's social engineering, right?
Yeah,
I mean,
exactly.
we hear about that all the time, but this was social engineering on an open source project over years. I mean, it was methodical.
Yeah, I mean, you talk about how open source, the lifeblood of open source projects, it's people willing to help, building merit over time, and as you build merit, you build trust within these open source communities, and the more merit or trust that you have, the more people let you do things. Mm-hmm. This is an example of somebody that the maintainer that didn't have time to do a lot of things, and somebody raised their hand and said, I'm going to help. However, the help that was being provided, again, social engineering, deliberate access to the repository, making commits to things that people don't look at. So, I mean, in here you see test files. Like,
oh my gosh.
Usually you see a developer writing tests for your open source project, you're like, yes, approved, get that in.
Whatever it is.
And you forget about it. You forget how much test data binary is actually checked into your GitHub repository. I'm a committer on Apache Tika. They have a number of different binaries that are checked into the GitHub that we're parsing and going through that have things that are there sometimes to break things, to test failure scenarios. So you don't always inspect or always know exactly what is in those binaries. So then you get build execution, right? So you move from, okay, we started inserting some things and disabling some security. Now we're changing how the build works. So that's the DevOps side. So most open source developers are very deep in the problem that they're solving, and they're hoping somebody else comes along and helps with the build tools and things like that. So another spot, not necessarily looking at very deep, or maybe don't even understand at the depth that some of the contributors might. And then finally, you go down here combining all of these things together, the level of sophistication to even find out that and do the forensics to figure out, well, what actually happened makes me nervous. It's like, how much more of this is out there?
Yeah, right. Like, this is one that we managed to comp.
This is almost certainly not the actual first, and it's definitely not going to be the last. I mean, this is something that is almost non-technical. I mean, the technical part of it is obfuscating it, but it's a human trust aspect that every one of us should be aware of, and it's really hard to fight.
The operative word here is spy.
Yeah,
Definitely has nation state written on it. So in one
it's definitely a hostile agent. What a hostile agent is, it's kind of hard. But yeah. Like when you put it together, right? Like this thing was like making set changes, adding files to get ignored. So if there was updates on those files, you didn't see that was happening.
Fascinating.
And when you put it on the test folder. I'm telling you, like when there is code on test, like I look at every pull request I get, I look at the main thing and it's like, okay, there's a bug coming. If I see test, it's like, as long as you're like, test looks like it's doing something, I'm not going to go and test the test. That's what the test is there for. So yeah, it's super easy how like the social engineering, knowing that, oh, I'm not going to make it on the main file. I'm just going to create a little test. For and a feature, there was a contribution to a feature. Like there was an actual feature that was fixed, right? It was small and stuff, but there was a test to it. It's we're in a world of hurt on that sense, and I think we're probably going to dedicate some more time on another episode to just dive into exactly how this happened, because this is probably going to start shaping. Some of the ways that we handle open source.
Yeah.
Right. Like it's governments might say no. You gotta have a specific way to get these libraries. There might be restrictions on who can contribute. There might be clearances for libraries. I don't know.
Well, this is already started with a lot of the SBOM stuff, anyways, right? So it's just going to get a little bit harder.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I don't think that actually solves this specific problem, which is what's scary about it, right? So we talk about dependency management and how, hey, if we shrink the attack vector down and we don't have all these dependencies, obviously that works to a point, but imagine if this got into the tar command. That's who's not using that, and you look at what they're doing, it's manipulating white space. There's no saying you're looking at a pull request in GitHub and you're not seeing white space, you're seeing the code and reading the code and kind of interpreting that in your mind. This requires machine level scanning, and that all will be needed in open source in order to prevent this sort of thing from happening. It's not something that somebody's seeing with their eyes.
I think part of the problem is that the logical conclusion is if we were to really vet everything on every single commit, open source would crawl to a halt. Maybe two ways out of this problem are using AI to help analyze some of this stuff as we go. Maybe some of it is helping with the open source model. There's just in this case, there were 2 or 3 people working on this entire code base in the whole world that everyone is depending on. And maybe some of these companies that have a lot of resources could contribute a little bit more to helping with the problem. So that's not my purview, but I think it's a bigger problem to really solve this.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, there's no exclusively solving it with money, but it's a piece of it, right?
Yeah.
If you had enough folks where you maybe didn't have to rely on a small set of people, then those people don't have an outsized amount of power over that. Mm-hmm. Where it's like, well, you got more eyeballs on it. I mean, that's kind of the expression with open source. Oh, many eyes make all the problems shallow. This is so sophisticated, this is not a shallow problem, and there's going to need a lot of eyes, maybe not even human eyes, to finally get that to a manageable level.
Yep.
And I think that I feel bad because I was going to make a joke about AI is going to solve everything. But to be honest, this could be a problem that AI could help solve, or at least flag hey, I see something suspicious here, right? It might not tell you that it's bad, but at least enough to maybe you should take a look at that. And that's
honestly, though, sadly, it makes me think about ways you can manipulate an AI to accept things.
Now we're talking
Talk today.
yeah. But you know what? So we'll keep going into that. I think we should go into the meat.
That was scary to you. We're going to get into even scarier things. Every time we bring on security folks.
Welcome to February 2025.
Yeah, so
Hopefully you can find some drinks after this for those of you who are here.
yes, and anytime I talk about quantum and all the math involved in that, it makes my head hurt as a developer because it is it's kind of a new thing, and we're not actually going to be talking too much about quantum, but what we are going to be talking about is the impacts that it will have on the developer community when these things become more widespread, and they are kind of starting to happen. So these things are on the minds of a lot of organizations right now. So, we have our guests from the security standpoint around quantum. And why don't we just talk about what is some of the things that quantum does really well that perhaps we're reliant on that would just break once this comes out?
Can we take a step back and explain I know most of us have an idea, but for those who don't have no idea why quantum, what it really does or what's different about it, maybe start with
It starts with a cat.
Yes.
Or maybe a cat, or maybe not.
Maybe so. Yes.
So okay. So just gonna do the quantum 101, and essentially it says things can be in what is called superposition, until you observe them. And that is kind of like the joke with the what is it, famous cat, was that, the whole thing is imagine there's a cat inside a box, and there is poison and a hammer, and a Geiger counter is tied to the hammer. Yeah, I don't know why that is the one, right? So the idea is there is a particle that it has a 50-50 chance to decay in the next hour. It says quantum says that cat is in superposition. It's both alive and dead until you open the box. And essentially it says that when you open the box, essentially what happens is if the material, the material actually decays and produces a neutron, the Geiger counter goes up, then the hammer falls and it breaks the vial, killing the cat. If the radioactive material doesn't decay, then the Geiger counter doesn't do anything and the cat is alive. So what happens is, the idea is that until you open the box, we don't know if the cat is alive or dead. So it's actually in both states at the same time, right? And when you actually open the box, you collapse what is they call it. You actually collapse the probability wave, and then now you resolve into what universe you happen to be in, right? One where the cat is alive or one where the cat is dead, right? And then this is all fine and dandy. What does it really mean for actually us, right? So there is a category of problems where finding the actual solution is extremely hard, right? And I'm going to start doing a little bit of how this relate to crypto, is that the base of our public-private cryptography right now is in this very simple property of prime numbers, which is getting two prime numbers and multiplying them to get a very, very big number is super easy. But having the super big number that is the product of two smaller prime numbers is very hard to factor them out. Right, there is really no way to say, oh gosh, is this big number divisible by 5, by 7, by 11, by 23? There's no real algorithm way
other than brute force,
or other than going through the whole spectrum. And then essentially part of your cipher key is that, right? Now, if we have a quantum computer, what I can say, hey, I have, question mark times question mark equals big number. And I say, I observed the big number. And because I collapse the wave on observing the big number, then it says the only quantum qubits that can fit that is this big prime number and this big prime number. So suddenly a problem that took so long to actually go through sequentially and trying all these things, suddenly you say, look, I observed this result. Tell me how I got there. And then suddenly, all of our public-private cryptographic algorithms break. And that is, on the horizon, and that is like one of the horror stories about like security. And there's hundreds that they're studying, and they're not just studying; they're solving for. Right. But that is kind of like the very, very foundation of how what is quantum and why does it relate to our field,
Yeah, I think the bigger question, right? Like the $1 million question is, does NP equal P? Right, and cryptography is assuming no, right, and that there are these really hard problems to solve, and I think that quantum is definitely one of those technologies that nobody fully understands whether it will break that or not, but there's a definite justifiable fear there, and just to give you a counter example, just last week, a mathematician won, I can't remember the name of the mathematics prize, but he was able to actually say, I can predict primes, which mathematicians didn't think was even possible. So it's not necessarily that it's totally a quantum issue, but any of these problems that we think are hard right now might not be hard in the future. Mm-hmm. And the question is, how do you defend yourself against that potential risk? And in the quantum universe, there's two algorithms that everybody talks about. There's Shor's algorithm, which directly attacks prime numbers, asymmetric crypto, exactly what you're talking about. And then there's the other world of cryptography, which is symmetric crypto, which is kind of where we are. And then there's Grover's algorithm, which everybody thinks that if you get 1,000 to 10,000 qubits, you're going to start shrinking symmetric key spaces. And they're completely different algorithms, but there's a lot of work going on. And every time there's been a quantum milestone, whether Google has said or Microsoft or whomever, they've arrived at it earlier. So that date, and we don't know when it is, it might have already happened, we don't know, but that date is not far in the future where one of these two algorithms, whether it's Shor's algorithm affecting prime numbers, whether it's Grover's algorithm shrinking the key space of symmetric key sizes, those are going to become real threats very soon.
And let's not pretend. I mean, the big adversaries are weaponizing things as quickly as possible, right? So we're going to be attacked in ways we've never seen before. And so that's what's, I think, fearing the boardroom and everything, is that fear of the unknown and the new risk now that's associated to that and how you can manage that in a fruitful way.
Yeah, I was just going to say, this is not a social engineering play like what we look at. This is purely technical and purely weaponized tech.
And I think absolutely. You guys are being very specific and technical, but at a high level, basically all the encryption that we use today is not going to work very soon. That's like that's
credit card.
like TLS what Freddie and whatever it is. It's just not going to work. So these guys are trying to solve that particular problem.
Absolutely, right. And I think it really, as we mentioned, it's about, we think this is the opportunity for developers, and this is, we're working closely with JCP and others as well, which is this is an area that developers can own. Like, you guys are, and developers touch the most critical aspects of every business that's there. And literally, cryptography goes everywhere there's data. Everywhere. Across the whole thing. You're talking IT, OT, supply chain. It goes wall to wall very quickly, right? And so now it becomes down to what's the most critical parts of your organization where you can start limiting the risk associated with this, right? And it's looking across the spectrum, and there's going to be low-hanging fruit and more difficult challenges to accomplish. But you got to start on the journey now, and you got to decide where you want to draw that line in the sand, because if you're caught with your pants down at the point in time when these things become weaponized, that point, I mean, already we're not there, and MGM just got hit with $100 million for one breach, right?
You don't want to
that's
be
the
that
start of it.
Like...
How soon until an organization is just taken out completely, right? I mean, we're approaching those types of scenarios, and we think we still have time to get in front of it a little bit, but we don't have much time. And so that's what our objective is, to empower that, to make that happen now.
Yeah, I gotta let
We're there now.
We're there now. That was
the messages we're sending now will be susceptible to this in the future.
Absolutely.
You're saving the messages now, and you're sending them thinking they're secret. Whenever this happens, they're going to get decoded. You're screwed now.
Okay, so yeah, like Todd gives for everyone. So what Todd is saying, and I'm repeating it because like he's not mic'd up, right? Like, and we love Todd. That's why. But he's saying, hey, no, this is not a future scenario. This is already happening. It's just that we may not know about it.
So it's maybe I should stop using WhatsApp?
You're sending now. Somebody saves those, and when you can decode them in the future, they go back and say, what is all Freddy's secret stuff? What was it 10 years ago?
TLS credit cards, like everything.
Or just imagine you think your healthcare data is private, right? You think your financial data is private. So in 5 years from now, 10 years from now, when that becomes public information, what are we going to do to get past that point, right? Are we all going to have new social security numbers? Are we going to... I mean, these are major challenges that the whole world has to figure out. This isn't just one person. This is all of us collectively that have to figure this out.
Yeah, and Glenn.
Yeah, the NIST, or National Institute of
Standards Technology.
Standards has already started working on algorithms to be able to handle the quantum.
Yeah. So yeah, for
Perfect lead in.
Yeah. So I'm gonna repeat like what Glenn said. There's an NIST like standard for how to handle like kind of like quantum proof like encryption, right? And I think that's something that you guys are actually working on, right?
Yeah, I mean, right now, what we're all living under is 142, 140.2, just to make it specific. And so AES is, kind of the standard bearer right there, and has served us really well. And 143 is coming, I would guess, in the next few months.
We're supposed to already be out, but
we're working to get
August now, it's
143 certified. But those are going to be the post-quantum algorithms. So whenever you read an article and NIST refers to 140-3, that is the family of post-quantum algorithms. And the TLDR on how all of these work, including ours, is you just make the key space so large that even a quantum computer can't hope to defeat that, but then you still have to say, well, how do you process that in a reasonable amount of time, right? You could make AES 2048, but you could never run it, right? Like it just wouldn't run. So that's what all of these kind of next generation algorithms are trying to do is, okay, we need at least 512-bit strength. That's the kind of the table stakes. But how do you run that efficiently? And that's what NIST is doing. And NIST just released their 2.0 framework for all of post-quantum security, and 143 is a linchpin to that, and that's what's about to be formalized. And you'll have many options, right? There's going to be a whole set of algorithms. They're really worried about signatures because those are public-private. They're less worried right now about symmetric. And that's why you see most of the NIST contenders are public-private signature RSA prime number replacements, because they're really worried about Shor being a threat.
Okay, and like, help me understand. So if post-quantum is probably not a term most of us are familiar with, I mean, does that using quantum hardware against itself, is this classical computing still, but because the algorithm, it makes it too hard for quantum? Can you dive into that a little bit?
Yeah, I mean, so, and I think most folks here would understand this, that when you go from 256 to 512, it's not twice as strong, right? It's the same amount of strength as going from 0 to 256. So, it's exponentially stronger. I think there's something like only 10 to the 90th atoms in the entire universe. And the theory is that, if you just make it much harder, even if they shrink the key space, 60, 120 bits, you're still fine. No computer can actually solve that. And that's kind of the game that we're in, is how do you how do you give these bigger key sizes but still do it in a way that you can not slow everything down and grind the internet to a halt, right? That's basically the game.
Well, that's the challenge we live in today, right? That inefficiency is why people haven't even deployed it correctly across our critical infrastructure and a lot of other places, right? Is because of bandwidth issues, end of the day, right? I mean, people have to win and have to be able to fit it within the box. And so the first thing to do a lot of times is we'll just turn that off, or we'll turn it down from 256 to 128.
Who has ever
we'll
disabled HTTPS certificates when trying to never, right? But no, so the interesting part, and I want to see, because you folks are doing a startup trying to address this problem, right? So and the way we see it, right? Like we say, like the infrastructure that we build right now, right? For many reasons is hardware that is very hard to update, right? Like it could be from your Cisco routers that are out of commission to, gosh, there is this new, you have like remote stations that may have your own Wi-Fi, or like you said, there might be like a toothbrush that happen to have Wi-Fi connections, because why not? I actually have a washing machine that is connected to the internet. It's fantastic, but besides the point, like it's cool, right? But the thing is, like replacing and upgrade, like whatever Wi-Fi it has is the Wi-Fi that it's gonna get. Like I'm not gonna get a hot update out of my provider, especially for things that are there used to be these websites that have like 1-day deals, and when you buy it, it's like a Chinese knockoff something that will have electronics in there, but that the company essentially like put after that sale, and they're not like that thing. Whatever it has code had when it was built is what is going to stay forever, right? And that was like, I remember even like there was an article about like how easy it is to crack cameras that are not like Logitech or stuff, because they have like old stuff, right? So essentially we're trying to like step on all this crumbling infrastructure, and we know that there's this big hammer coming with all their algorithms that are going to break the ones that are still kind of working. And then what is a developer going to do? What do we do?
Well, I think traditionally security has always come with a trade-off. There's obviously the dev cost, but that's kind of a fixed cost. But then there's the operating cost of how much is it slowing down my network, how much, if I encrypt something, maybe the encrypted value is a little bit larger, and now I have to resize all my database columns, right? And there's a cost for security. There's a cost in usability a lot of times for security. And I think as developers, I think baking security into your data, making data equal security, I think is the end answer. Because then if it's something that is at a library level that you almost don't think about, and it's not imposing an ongoing penalty, and that's an if, that's where you want to be, where it's literally by default, every byte I send is encrypted, and I decide how much I want to dial that up or down.
Got it. So you said like instead of for example me doing an HTTP request, HTTPS request, and trusting that HTTPS protocol is going through all secure channels and all key ciphers are still good, is that instead of doing that, let me just encrypt the page. Let me take ownership of that data, in the sense that whatever I was going to send, I'm going to encrypt using what I think is best, and then I have the choice of how easy or hard, or how how secure do I want this? Do I want this to be for 200 years because it's going to go to a vault somewhere where it needs to be? Like whatever it is, right? So in that way, it's not so much trying to fix the infrastructure, it's saying like, I don't trust the infrastructure from the beginning, so I'm just going to create something that I know I can decrypt because I know how I encrypted it.
Absolutely.
I think everything in security is kind of like your immune system, where there's no one thing that prevents a virus from taking you completely over. It's that you have a whole bunch of things. You have your skin, you have your T cells, you have your macrophages, you have a whole army of different things that all do one thing really simply, and you're just depending on all of them together. And there's no magic bullet, right? I think if I were to sit here and say, use a post-quantum cipher and you're going to be safe, no, it's not true. The social engineer, the malicious insider, the what have you, is going to break all of that. So what I would say is just build it in from the beginning and have it be an actual requirement of every product that you release, because one day you don't know how that's going to happen. Like SSH, we just talked about how it's been attacked head on, but years ago people figured out that the rate at which you type, because SSH sends the keystrokes in real time, we can recover 70% of the message without even attacking the cryptography, right? So you're never going to get everything with like a magic bullet, right? You have to think of this whole thing like your immune system, right? Like, I'm going to put a whole bunch of things in place. And one of them, the big part of it, is how are you encrypting things?
Well, and if you think about today, look at the structure of what everybody deals with, right? It's a concept where everybody says zero trust. We all know that's just a BS term, right? I appreciate the industry. It's made a lot of people money and sent a lot of kids to college. But at the end of the day, it's not doing anything to push the bar to help people, right? And the reason why is we're in a distributed system today. When you have a data thing here, looking across your whole data ecosystem, the amount of different vendors and different software and different things that are occurring all the way from this point to that point, it'll blow your mind sometimes if you start looking at the actual chain. And all it takes really is one of those pieces in the middle there to get compromised, and your whole thing's done, right?
It was just an XE library.
And so so what we believe is that developers specifically now can take this and uplift it one level, or now you can control exactly what data is being exposed at each one of those points, if any of it. If you have a storage provider, why do they need to know what you're storing there? Doesn't matter. And today they do, right? Today, if you look at even the majority of attacks, a lot of them are insider or admin related sorts of injections, right? And so how do you start to put your arms around that, right? And so what we're trying to do is really be holistic of how we can now enable the ability to manage this thing end to end in a different way. And enabling a developer to just own it directly. We think that that's the layer where it makes sense.
Right, and that is the concept that you were describing, that like once you create this message and encryption, you actually put in not just the signature for it, but you also have a way for it to say who has access to this message as part of the encryption key payload that you have, right? And that is kind of like the innovation that you folks are bringing to the table, where it's not that I just encrypted something, but I encrypted something and also telling you who has access to it, and what can they access.
Exactly, as well as the concept of guaranteed authenticity, or what's known as provenance. And this even comes into AI and anything where you want to own and know exactly the sources. Within our key, I'll let Sascha get into this some more, but we've actually innovated where you can embed things right within the key space directly, like access control lists. It could be a machine ID. This stuff can be applied anywhere from a desktop to an IoT sensor to a Rockwell PLC set in the middle of your oil field. You need to lock down all those points, right? And so if you can uplift things above all the noise that's happening below that point, you take control of it now, right? And that's the objective. Right now it's broken because you lose control of things very quickly. And
I'll give everyone a freebie here. One of the big things that you hear about all the time is ransomware attacks. If you really want to stop a ransomware attack, encryption is not going to do that.
Right.
They can encrypt your encrypted data, and now you can't access it, and game over. But if you really want to stop a ransomware attack, when you back up, and I'm going to use AWS as an example, but Azure does it, other people do it, do a worm mount where you can only write the data once. So write once, read many. And then you encrypt the data, so it's useless to whoever's doing it. But if you set up a volume where you back up to a worm and you encrypt what you wrote there, you are golden because nobody can overwrite your copy. And even if they read it, they have no idea what your key was.
Garbage.
It's a super, super simple way to defend against like every single ransomware attack. And you can do that with any cipher, like, you know, not just like a post-quantum one. But if you're going to back up, do it to a worm and encrypt it, and then practice your restore, because everybody practices backup. Nobody practices restore. So just if you do that, you're probably 99% safe from ransomware.
And there's no golden nugget that's the panacea for everything, right? So you have to think about this, how you can collectively start to surround the problem. There's not just going to be a throw it over the fence, we're done, check the box. We're not in that era anymore.
Well, one of the things I'm thinking of from listening to you is, you know, occasionally I've been in situations where like someone's like, hey, we need to write up something to describe all the security for whatever system it is, and I'm like, oh great. And then you have to go through every single component, like it's an S3, it's encrypted at rest, we're using TLS here, we're doing this here. But like it would be a lot nicer to just be able to say, hey, we're using this post-quantum thing for all of our code that's writing to these particular places and in between, and oh yeah, we're on top of TLS, but it seems actually like a much easier story to sell,
Absolutely, and I think if you bump it up one level, even from just the technical perspective, but there's a thing out there called cyber insurance, right? And people have to actually pass an audit now if you want to not just get exorbitantly, charged out the yin yang. And
use Norton.
More than Norton?
Yeah.
Right? So how can you do those things where, in that cybersecurity audit, you need to prove end-to-end that you have control of everything from end to end. And today, 99.99998% of people out there cannot do that. So there it is, right? So there's some immediate win if you start looking at things. If you look at all data, it's a pretty daunting task, right? But if you start to really hone in on the specific areas, you can knock off one by one across the organization. And like we say, there's not a panacea that's going to just, magic ball, this thing's just going to be cleared. But at least now you can gain control of something you didn't have control over before. And that's it.
So what we're going to do is because we have, they're going to kick us out, but because, we talk too much. But no, the one thing is like, yeah.
Maybe just Freddie.
They're gonna kick me out. No, but the thing is that we if you want to know more, go to Quantum 9. But this is the interactive part of the presentation where we have a game for you to play. And what this is essentially we're gonna show you a particular slide. Maybe we can turn this out for their benefit. And
game. That's it.
Yeah,
that's not
one. It's like the question is, what were we trying? What was the
What
real
color's
message?
the screen?
The opposite of the eclipse.
There you go.
So the game is we're gonna put in a slide of an AI company, and some of it's like tagline or kind of like one-liner description of what they do, and you have to say if it's real or is it fake. And the thing is that if you win this and you get all the right, you get 1 million keto bucks.
Well, Keto's playing, isn't he?
That means free drinks all night. Free drinks
It's
all
Freddie
night.
bucks. Whatever those are worth.
bar out there, right?
There's you can change 500,000 for a sticker.
I have stickers.
All right. So are we ready to play?
All right.
Let's do this. All right. I am going to take your job.com. Watch out, AI is coming for you. Is this a real thing? A real company?
Like we just started Keto and go down the line.
Yeah.
Real or fake?
It's real.
Yeah, I think it's real.
I don't know if the URL is real, but the concept is real.
All right, you saved your money.
Who is registering the domain right now?
This domain is free, by the way. So Anyone wants it.
By the end of this session, this will be a real thing. So maybe we'll change it.
It's public now.
All right.
Visual.ai, deep learning to render virtual try-ons. Is it real or is it fake?
Fake.
You say it's fake?
Yep.
Andy,
Real.
you think it's real?
The name is ugly enough to be real.
And yes, it's a real thing. You want to try a new outfit? You go to visual.ai.
We need more sponsors for this.
But can they guarantee my
It's AI,
Gucci
man.
bag is actually Gucci, or is it?
Guarantee it matches the rest of your outfit.
Maybe I was confused by virtual try-ons. It's kind of a strange.
Virtual try-ons.
That is out of what they say they do.
It is really there.
I thought you must have made that one up.
Power Grid AI, the intelligent way to manage your power needs. You
Fake.
think that's real or fake?
I think it's real.
You think it's real?
Yeah.
You think it's like, that's a conviction from like the heart. All right,
I wish it was real, but I don't think it is.
so you think it's fake. All right, yeah, it was fake. Yes. By the end of
I'm
this,
really good at this.
yeah. Postsingularity.ai,
don't need companies
advocating for the
anymore.
acceleration of universal knowledge. Is that a real thing or a fake thing?
I'm gonna go for 3 for 3. I'm 4-3. This is real.
Yeah.
This is real.
I think it's real.
You think it's real? All right.
They're not reusing
I
any
think
of the
it's
data.
redundant.
Yeah, you got
Push
it.
the button too
I
early.
think singularity means AI, and I don't know what post AI means.
Bam. There you go.
That makes it seem more realistic, though.
It does. It does.
There's an AI for that.com.
Totally real.
Directory of company doing AI
Totally real.
projects.
Shouldn't it be? I'm gonna say yes. It's
The
real.
name's
Yes.
really, the name's really long though, so
Real?
it's making me question. But yeah,
Otherwise, there's going to be another domain.
I think it's
Yeah.
yes.
That is actually real. You can go there.
Reminds me of my old school first company I ever launched. That was whomakesit.com.
Well, like the .coms are going away. Now it's all the .ais.
Yeah.
But let's see this one. Dreamgen.com. AI role play without limit.
That sounds very realistic to me.
So you think it's real?
Yes.
All right.
I think it has a good inception.
Dream Gen.
Huh?
Real.
You think it's real? All right, Sascha and Andy, yeah? Yeah, that one
I
is
got
real.
one right. Yes.
And they got 25 new subscribers.
Send them an email. Who wants to go share?
CloseAI.com.
Fake.
The title says it all.
What was that? What was that site? What was it like? Oh yes. Fuck company. That was it. Yes, it's kind of like that. So I say yes.
So you think it's real?
Yes.
I think they're all closed, so I think it's fake.
Yeah, I think it's fake.
Uh-huh.
It is fake.
Well, that one it actually kind of has it has a fake with a caveat.
There's an article with Elon Musk saying if he'll drop his lawsuit if OpenAI changes to closed AI, but yeah.
Space barges are going to cure everything. What do you mean?
The title says it all.
Packify.
Packify.ai.
What are we packing?
Packaging designed with AI. Real or fake?
Fake.
You think that's fake?
Well, actually, no. I think it's real because I'd be surprised if you guys came up with this one. So
I don't know what that says about it.
I think that's real.
You think that's real? Okay.
I was gonna say something similar. It's so horrible, it's got to be real.
Yeah, it has to be real.
Yes.
Okay, so
Packify, yeah.
you think it's real? All right. Yeah, that one is a real thing.
What the hell is that?
Data Volo.
Data Volo, multimodal data pilots for Gen AI. Real or fake?
It's not a domain,
I mean, yeah, it doesn't say that AI.
so
on
I
the
think
end.
it's fake.
Tag it.
Yeah, I agree.
AI messed up there.
Was that?
It doesn't say AI in the end, so it must not be real.
Yeah, it's
Oh,
not
so
a
that
domain.
is the bar.
North Korea hit that AI
All
model.
right, so you can.
Just before I show that, there's this.
Oh man!
That one's real. That's where I'm starting on Monday.
You can talk to the marketing department that if they don't have a data ball with AI, it doesn't count. Like,
The tagline sounded real. So.
All right.
What does multimodal mean?
More than one model.
So, you know, go to Hugging Face and pick whatever
We'll
you
talk
want.
later. We're running out of time.
All right. Nuda.ai. Real or fake? AI first autonomy.
Real.
You think it's real?
I think it's misspelled, so I like it.
Real.
That means it's
You
real.
think it's real? And Sasha?
Yeah, it's misspelled. It's probably real.
Check.
All right.
And this is the last one, right?
AI companion.
Clubhouse
Oh, there's no AI on it again.
Drunk AI companion. Is this real or fake?
I think it's drunk.
That's a great idea.
It's very needed.
Yes. I
Seems
think
like a
it's fake,
future
but it's a great
premonition.
idea. It's a great idea.
Or an angry.
It depends on which one you want.
Oh my gosh. There's
The Freddy replacement.
Why you killed this thing? Take my AI!
Not real, but it should be.
It's drunk owl's companion. They just didn't.
Drunk. You get weird owl. Like, drunk owl is even better. All right.
So it's actually fake, but there is a link on deepai.org that has a drunk model that you can talk to.
Nice.
So
Yeah, we should
there's
go
no
there.
company, but
Does
we
that
should
just mean it's
go there.
unpredictable?
Yeah, well, you know.
Well, as predictable as a drunk person is.
Yeah, I can't get to it right now.
They hallucinate too.
Let me see if I get it.
Oh, well, that is when hallucinations are actually. It's a perfect AI. Like,
Deep AI that
Deep
despair is
AI.
not what I'm trying to.
Drunk. Here it is.
just say bro.
Oh.
Hey, man.
Pretty good model.
So it's
This is Turing complete right here.
And the rest I cannot say in public.
Yeah. All right.
So yeah, the world of AI is alive and well.
And apparently I don't understand it.
What's AI?
Freddie's typing like he's drunk right now.
What's AI, man?
It's everything.
That's a legit answer.
Oh my gosh, we could have just a whole another hour asking questions.
So this will be a guess.
I want to
podcast.
hear. We should, like, you should have the one that actually speaks. You know,
Oh, we just
pick a voice actor. Just
we
have
use
it.
It's going to be Freddie, so it'll be just
Yes.
maybe 3 or 4 hours from now.
Which alcohol company wants to sponsor that session? You know.
Oh my gosh, you know, it's like they'll be lining up, you know? It's like,
Shall we play a game?
oh, that sounds very Hulk 2000. Those games are, oof. All right. With that, I want to say, like, this has been a great episode. I want to thank, my co-hosts, Kato and Bob, for being here, and our guest host, our guest, making sure your computer is safe somehow. Andy and Sascha, thank you so much for coming in. And thanks for the audience for, staying here and having fun with us. Really appreciate it. And with that, we are done with our OffHeap episode. Thank you so much. All right. With